Hi, Love Bug. Welcome to the Naked Yoga Podcast. This podcast is all about incorporating bits and pieces of yogic philosophy and spirituality into your everyday life. I'm your host, Nneka, a graduate student at Columbia University's Spirituality Mind-Body Institute. I'm also a yoga and meditation instructor at a little studio called Core Power Yoga. You may have heard of it. My mission here is to help you nourish your mind, body, and spirit connection. Each podcast episode will begin with a guided meditation, followed by the core of the episode pairing a spiritual concept with science. Lastly, each episode will end with a mindful closure, providing you with actionable steps you can do after listening to deepen your mind, body, and spirit connection. So, without further ado, let's get right into today's episode. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to another episode of the Naked Yoga Podcast. This is episode number 21. I can't believe it. We are officially old enough to drink, so maybe I'll start getting a little tipsy on this podcast. Just kidding. Yeah, so in today's episode, I really wanted to talk about friendships. I think all relationships, honestly, are God sent. Like, everyone that enters into your life has a purpose, whether that purpose is to help you learn something or become more enlightened, or maybe the purpose is for you to actually be, a trail angel or a gift to that person. Whatever it may be, I do think that each person you encounter has an intentional and divine purpose in your life. And so I was thinking about our meditation today, and I kind of wanted to take it back to basics. Yeah. I was actually talking to a potential mom yesterday, or I think she's definitely going to be a mom, but a potential doula client. And we were talking about just like the ease of meditation, and it can be so simple as now I breathe in and now I breathe out. So I thought for today we can kind of take away all the mumbo jumbo of like visualizations and all these other practices and manifestations that we do. And I thought for today we can just do a simple breathing exercise. I believe this might be one of the first ones we did on the podcast together, but I want to do box breathing with you guys. It's very simple. You breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. When you're ready, begin to empty your lungs with a little vibration, a little sound, SH, all the air out. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3. Last time. 2. and 1 wonderful. How did that feel? If you want to try one more time, I invite you to pause the podcast and maybe do a few at your own pace, your own rhythm. Otherwise, I will see you on the other side and we'll dive right into the episode. How are you feeling? Honestly, I loved it. I don't know if you guys know this, but oftentimes I will pause the meditation component and then re-listen to it and do it with you guys and journal and stuff after. So I really love focusing on the breath, and sometimes I think it's so necessary to understand that you don't have to have this visualization, you don't have to chant a mantra, you don't have to really do anything to meditate. You just have to breathe. And sometimes it's good to kind of strip away all that external stuff and to go back just to the core of the practice, the breath, and playing with that. Also, if you guys haven't checked out breathwork, I love this breathwork meditation on Insight Timer. I honestly cannot tell you what this guy is talking about before or after the breathwork, but we use an infinity breath, and I love that. Whenever I'm feeling stressed or anxious, or I just want to feel like I can shake everything that's holding me back out of my body, I will start my days with this meditation or this breathwork exercise, and I'll leave that in the show notes below so you guys can check that out at your leisure. I'm not sure if it's hidden against the paywall. I do have an unlimited or whatever it may be Insight Timer membership, but if it's not, or if it is, I'm going to leave it there regardless. And if it is, I will try to find some alternatives for free online to share with you guys as well. Okay, so for the core of today's episode, I really wanted to talk about friendships, and I actually am looking at some notes from my women in mental health class, and it's really interesting the way women and men kind of differ in their friendships. But before we get into those differences, I want to focus really, I think, on the purpose, the spiritual purpose of friendships. And like I mentioned at the top of the episode, I really truly think that every person you encounter in this lifetime, you encounter for a reason. I do believe in the invisible string theory, and I think we're going to talk about that more next episode, not this episode. But I do think that when you are growing and your soul is evolving, there are people that come into your life not even to test you, but to reflect the work that you've done, right? People appear, and sometimes it's funny how much you have in common, or how much a person just understands and gets you. And oftentimes it's because you've done the work yourself to see God or yourself reflected in each and every person. And so I think, especially as I'm looking at friendships now, as I prepare to leave New York after 12 years of being here, while I was packing, I actually found a really old photo from my internship days at Google, and honestly the photo is so beautiful. It's me and about 6 of my friends that I met in the internship, and to this day me and one of the guys are still pretty close. We talk all the time, and we live pretty close to each other, and I just love him so much. I sent him the photo and he immediately responded back I'm crying. And I think that just shows the power of friendships, right? Especially when you have these friendships over decades. At this point, that photo was taken about 10 years ago. I think actually nine years, but definitely a significant amount of time. And as I reflect on friendships, I think one of the most powerful tools of friendship is having that bond and discovering your vulnerabilities, right? If you would have told me 10 years ago I would text this guy and his response would be, I'm crying, I would have been what? That's so not him. He's a macho dude. He would never. And being able to learn someone and know someone and just experience the ebbs and flows of life allows you to be vulnerable in a way that, surface level friendships or fleeting friendships just don't really allow you to do. And I think there's something to be said about like the ebbs and flows of life, right? Because friendships also ebb and flow. There's sometimes when you grow really close with a friend and then something happens, not negative, not positive, but you guys begin to drift apart. And I think that's okay too. I think that's also a part of your spiritual path and your spiritual journey, kind of understanding the art of letting go. I was reflecting with some of my friends from piano last night about a really dear friend that I have. We essentially grew up together and she suffered like a great loss, and our friendship just has not been the same since. And that's okay. I find myself still reaching out to this person, even though at this point I know they're most likely not going to respond. But I think that's also a show of my vulnerability too, saying, I love you so much. I don't care at this point if you're not going to respond to me, because I know you're going through a lot. I know you suffered a big loss, and I want you to know when you are ready to open up and to re-engage in friendship that I'm here. And that also takes like a level of discernment, right? Because I might not have the same empathy and compassion and patience for someone who I had a fleeting friendship with, someone I may have had more of a convenient friendship with. And as we go through life, we do tend to see our friendships in these different categories, right? I have an amazing volleyball team that I love so very much, and we play volleyball together. Sometimes we go out together, but most of the time we play volleyball together. I have a really great group of piano friends, and we play piano together. Sometimes we go out, but usually I see them at my piano lessons, and that's it. There are friends that are our best friends, and I have people I can call right now and be like, hey, I want to hang out, let's go out. And they're at my apartment within the hour, or we're making plans to go to the movies or to go to a bar, to do whatever, right? But that's not how everyone functions in my life. And also kind of understanding like where you live in other people's lives as well. I have a wonderful group of friends that I go out with, and quite literally, like I will text them at like 10 o'clock, at midnight, at 1 a.m. and just be like, are y'all out? Because like I'm still out and I want to party, and like that's totally fine. That's just like the nature of my friendship with that group of people. And so as we get older, I think we kind of realize how beautiful, how environmental, and I don't know, just how ever evolving these friendships are and these friendships can be. And I guess I think a really big, like a big job of spirit, or a big part of our jobs on this spiritual journey, is to understand like how to release our friendships. Not release in a way of like, oh, I completely give up, I never want to talk to this person again, I'm done. But release in a way of like our expectations, right? I wish like my volleyball friends were my friends that I hung out with every day and could do this, that, Y, Z, and the other with, but I know that that's not really the case. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but being okay with how people want to show up in your life. I think that's honestly like kind of our biggest test, right? Not putting so much expectations or pressures, or I'm going to say this, and my mom says it all the time. You can't expect people to act like you. You can't expect people to respond the way you would respond. And you can't expect people to behave in a way that you behave. And I think that honestly reflects in every relationship that we have, right? Like I can't expect the people I go out with to want to show up to like my graduation. Like it's just different expectations for different people in our lives. And I think, I don't know, like I just think it's so beautiful at the same time, right? It's beautiful that I'm able to learn you in this really intimate way, that you allow me to show up in your life and how you feel comfortable showing up in my life. And I think that's honestly everything I have to say on this. I did want to talk a little bit about some of the research because the nerd never stops. I'm like literally still laughing because my friend that I mentioned earlier is still texting me about that photo. And we literally, guys, we look so cute. You don't understand. This photo of us, it looks like a cover of a movie, like a friend's photo. Like, it's insane. But anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about the difference between like how men and women navigate friendships. And so women primarily enter friendships in order to kind of build an intimacy. So intimacy assistance. Oftentimes, like women, what is that test called? I think it's called like the Berkshire or the Belger's test, in which essentially, if you're watching a TV show or anything on the media, it has to do with the amount of times women have conversations that do not circle around men. Oftentimes, most shows fail this test miserably. But I mean, a part of intimacy assistance is like, women like to talk and we like to get other women's perspective on like our personal relationships, our intimate relationships. Another aspect of female friendships is status. So having women around you that recognize the goddess that you are inside and to really help build your self-esteem. I do think that could be said for any friendship, right? Like between a man and a woman or men to men, like we definitely want people in our lives that help us feel good about ourselves and help us kind of rise to our fullest potential. And then it was really funny, and female friendships, it's found that power and prestige is actually more important for women as opposed to men. I also think it's because women have a little bit more of a relational thinking, right? Like, so women want to associate with other powerful women versus men. I feel like they have more of an individualistic approach to relationships. So maybe a man of power doesn't want to be friends with people who have similar power or status as them because they want to be like, for lack of a better term, the alpha male. All right, so intimacy in women's friendships really contribute to greater life satisfaction. They help modulate stress responses, social support, which is honestly iconic for any mental health issue. You need that social support, and also social interactions. Friendships also contribute to women's social and personal identities. So I think back in the day, if you guys had MySpace, the amount of like arguments and discourse I had around my top 8 was insane. And I truly think it's because I am a woman. Like, I couldn't be someone's number one if they weren't my number one, and then who's in my top 4, and then rearranging my top 4 and trying to make sure all my girlfriends felt satisfied with their place. And God forbid I had a boyfriend, then I'd have to rearrange my entire top 8. Then someone's getting dropped, and it was just like, it was so much drama. But truly, like, I think it's because like our identities are intertwined with the people that we spend the most time with. And it's interesting, I don't have this article right in front of me, and I wish I would have wrote the name of it here. Thoughts for Future Self. But the scientist Taylor, such a generic name, published an article in 2002, such a generic date. Anyways, under conditions of stress, women activate their social bonds while men actually tend to avoid them, right? So we see this in kind of like the mental health epidemic, but men tend to recluse more, and oftentimes like men commit suicide, and it's really sad because no one really saw it coming, versus women, when they're stressed or they're not able to kind of cope with life, that's when they're going to lean on their friendships more. So it's an interesting way of like socialization, because I don't think men intend to like withdraw, but because, things like talking about your emotions, that intimacy assistance, stuff like that, it's kind of out of the repertoire or like out of the realm for men to kind of have conversations about with other men, which is also why like we kind of hate on some of these alpha male podcasts. But I do think they're helping men speak more to each other about intimate issues. Although I do think most of the takes are like wrong, but I'm happy that more men are talking to each other. There's always a silver lining in everything. I have a bunch of notes about dating, but I don't really want to focus on that now. But there is a lot of like really interesting research on women's sexuality in regards to friendships, and especially it being like fluid, dynamic, and gender inclusive. But we're going to leave that for another episode because I have here Problems of Women, Cis Hetero Patriarchal Construction of Sexuality. And I feel like that is an episode within itself because I could talk about that for a long time. But I'm going to do more research on like women's sexuality. And I think maybe we'll have another like dating / like sexual episode. Either way, I think I've been talking for quite a long time about friendships and relationships, and I want to transition now to our honorable closure. So for our honorable closure today, I want to invite you to take some time and just reflect on how many different roles you play as a friend, right? Are you someone's work wife or work husband? Are you someone's best friend? Are you someone's confidant? Do you hold a lot of secrets for many people in your life? Just take some time to reflect on like who you are as a friend. I understand that right now we are seeing a lot of people entering their 30s and like not having a solid group of friends. And I think before we can kind of show up as a friend, we need to understand one, the roles that we already play as a friend, and maybe take some time to reflect on how you feel about those roles. Do you want to be that person that someone only calls when they want to go to the club? I'm actually down to be that person, but not everybody wants friendships like that, and that's okay. Take some time just to understand where you are now with your friendships in your journal, and maybe take some time to think about what kind of friendships that you want to have. Just the simple practice of writing them down is going to help you begin to cultivate and call in friendships that are more aligned with what you're looking for in this life. Also, remember to be vulnerable, right? Friendships, that growth, that intimacy in any relationship, platonic or romantic, it comes from being vulnerable and maybe saying the things that you don't feel comfortable saying, or saying the things that give you pause, saying the things that may hurt someone's feelings or may leave you feeling like you're sitting there naked and alone. It sucks, but it's worth it in the end because the intimacy that kind of grows from being seen is something that you can't really put a price tag on. All right, my loves, I am going to stop talking now. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Oh my God, guys, the next time I record, I will be a resident of DC. Oh my gosh. Okay, love you guys so much. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Naked Yoga Podcast. My name is Nneka, and if you want more content from me, you can follow me on Instagram or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Nourish Nneka. This is a completely independent podcast. Yes, I write the scripts, record, and edit the podcast all by myself. Therefore, any support you could give, like a share, a comment, maybe leaving a little review on Apple Podcast or wherever you might be listening, would go a very long way and warm my little itty bitty heart. Thank you so much once again for listening, my love bug. I will see you in the next episode.